Take a fun and nostalgic look at Independence Day celebrations in Discovering Washington, the 4th of July. Relive Greater Washington's annual 4th of July traditions through the years, from 19th century presidential celebrations to a closer look at the Declaration of Independence, to the local festivities that attract families and visitors from around the world in Discovering Washington, the 4th of July. The 4th of July, it's the biggest annual celebration of patriotism in the country. Over the years, it's a day that's been marked with festivities ranging from parades, picnics, and beauty pageants, to wrestling matches, and yes, even greased pig competitions. It's a day where the country's history takes center stage, and for the thousands who gather in the nation's capital, there's no better place to commemorate American independence.
I am first-born generation American. I can't imagine another place in the entire country that is more patriotic than tonight, right here.
I'm taking her. She's my in-law. She's visiting just for 4th of July from Cameroon. So she wants to sightsee and enjoy 4th of July downtown DC. She's going to see amazing, amazing fireworks.
It's the capital of our country. I mean, this is the time, this is the place, and so this is a great place to be to celebrate our nation's independence.
This is where it all started, Independence Hall, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. In the summer of 1776, a committee led by Thomas Jefferson drafted the words that would declare independence from British rule. This declaration decreed that the 13 American colonies were now free and independent states. The formal adoption of the Declaration of Independence would be the first step in creating a new country, the United States of America.
Even as independence was being declared in 1776, no less a figure than John Adams weighed in on how important a holiday he thought this was going to become for America. In a letter to his wife Abigail, Adams described the importance of independence and how he saw that this event would be celebrated for years to come. The only thing was, Adams was off by a couple of days. Adams envisioned this day of celebration would be July 2nd, the day that the vote had actually been made for independence.
But as it turns out, the Declaration still needed some more editing, so it turns out that the 4th of July is really more when it became a public pronouncement as opposed to when Congress actually approved it.
Adams also declared that American independence should be celebrated with pomp and parade, games, sports, guns, bells, bonfires, and illuminations from one end of the continent to the other. And as you can see, from Alaska to the nation's capital, July 4th festivities around the country have rung true to those words.
In 1801, Thomas Jefferson is the first president to sort of have an open house at the White House for Independence Day. That's also the same year that businesses close and employees are given a holiday to enjoy the day and celebrate American independence.
So when people entered the White House for Jefferson's 4th of July celebration, they would have seen a mixing of citizens that probably otherwise wouldn't be seen in the same place, because you have some very affluent citizens and some more middling citizens. It's a holiday for all people, and Jefferson made people feel that way at his receptions.
In the years that followed, other U.S. presidents would celebrate the holiday in their own patriotic ways.
John Quincy Adams has this reputation as being more formal and stuffy, but he could be spontaneous. In fact, during one of the 4th of July celebrations when he was president, he decided to get on a float that was traveling down Pennsylvania Avenue, and this float actually had women dressed as all of the states of the Union. And this was something sort of spontaneous that the president wanted to do.
And what would a 4th of July celebration be without a picnic? Or how about turtle soup? At least for President John Tyler, maybe.
There was one particular note when a 300-pound turtle was sent to the White House from Key West, Florida. And, well, as you can imagine, what are you going to do with a 300-pound turtle? So they decided to turn it into terrapin soup. And they enjoyed a massive turtle feast, and then they went outside to watch fireworks, as was the custom at the time.
Sadly, in 1850, President Zachary Taylor's July 4th refreshments may have played a role in his untimely death.
He actually spent it at a celebration near the Washington Monument, and he was drinking ice water and eating cherries and iced milk. But several days later, he became very, very ill. Doctors thought perhaps it was cholera, some type of gastrointestinal illness, but he ends up dying shortly thereafter.
In times of war and conflict, Independence Day celebrations and presidential speeches tended to reflect the mood of the country.
So the 4th of July celebrations during the James Polk administration were a little bit different because the United States was involved in a war with Mexico at that time. So these celebrations were not only especially patriotic, but they also involved more military reviews, more military parades. And we see this throughout American history. For someone like Abraham Lincoln, his speeches very much talk more about preservation of the Union, about freedom, about democratic ideals. On one 4th of July, President Abraham Lincoln decided to attend a festival on the South grounds for African American schools and religious groups. And I think Lincoln, including African American institutions and community organizations, sent a message that this 4th of July was supposed to be celebrated not only looking backward, but looking forward, and what the country would aspire to. If you look later at someone like Woodrow Wilson, I mean, it's more about democracy in the world, that the United States is supposed to be a force for good. And then if we look even more modern, with Franklin Roosevelt during World War II, again, it's about celebrating what binds us together as a nation, but also that we are supposed to serve and protect other countries and help protect democratic ideals.
I tell the American people solemnly that the United States will never survive as a happy and fertile oasis, an oasis of liberty surrounded by a cruel desert of dictatorship. And so it is that when we repeat the great pledge to our country and to our flag, it must be our deep conviction that we pledge as well our work, our will, and, if it be necessary, our very lives.
One president would not only celebrate the country's birthday, but his own as well. Calvin Coolidge, born July 4th, 1872, is seen here receiving a birthday wreath in the shape of the Liberty Bell. On another July 4th, while in office, Coolidge received birthday greetings from 20,000 Massachusetts citizens. And 3 U.S. presidents have died on July 4th: John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, and James Monroe.
In 1826, it was particularly symbolic because it was the 50th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. And it was John Adams and Thomas Jefferson who both passed away on that day. In fact, they say that John Adams' last words were, "Jefferson lives," but in fact, he didn't know Jefferson had passed away several hours earlier.
Of course, at the core of July 4th is the Declaration of Independence itself. Today, visitors from around the world can view the original document at the National Archives in Washington, D.C. In a grand rotunda, the Declaration sits side by side with the Constitution of the United States and the Bill of Rights, collectively known as the Charters of Freedom.
Those original documents are magic. They remind us of our aspirations. They remind us of how much we need to participate, to be citizens in a full democracy, and for people to be able to come into this building and see the Declaration of Independence, and not just the Declaration of Independence, but all of the documents that really are the fabric of America.
The National Archives itself was established in 1934 to preserve and care for the records of the U.S. government. Prior to the building's completion, it was quite common for records to be kept in basements, warehouses, and even the White House garage.
So the building opened in 1935. Bill of Rights was transferred here in 1938. But the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution were in the custody of the Library of Congress, and the Librarian of Congress refused to release them. So it wasn't until 1952 when Harry Truman got involved and ordered the new librarian and new archivist to get together and make it happen to move those documents to the National Archives.
As crowds lined the street and looked on, it was with great fanfare and military precision that the Constitution of the United States and the Declaration of Independence were transferred from the Library of Congress down Constitution Avenue and delivered safely to the Archivist of the United States.
The Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights are now assembled in one place for display and safekeeping.
One of the things that impresses me most when I walk into the rotunda, the fact that these documents have survived. You have to remember that the Declaration was signed in Philadelphia. The capital moved from Philadelphia to New York, so it was dragged to New York, then dragged to Washington.
The Declaration of Independence would remain in Washington until the War of 1812. The night before the British invaded the city in 1814, a senior clerk named Stephen Pleasanton realized the records were at risk and took them into the hills of Virginia for safekeeping.
Every day I thank Stephen Pleasanton for his actions, because it's because of him that those records are sitting in the rotunda today.
Sadly, time has taken its toll on the physical condition of the Declaration of Independence, as the words that declared our freedom from Great Britain have all but faded to the opaque color of the original parchment on which it was written.
Of course, it was the most popular of the documents, so it got a lot of exposure. Exposure by hanging for about 70 years, we think, in direct sunlight. During the late 1800s, Samuel Adams decided to have copies made of it, so he hired a man named Stone to make a copper plate, and we think one of the ways that he probably did that was to put a wet cloth over the original to lift a layer of ink off of it and then put that on the copper plate, because it's a direct copy. And that, of course, started the deterioration also.
Thanks to the preservation efforts at the National Archives, the country's most treasured documents will always be preserved and serve as a physical reminder of the country's founding.
We're kind of unique in having a permanent exhibit that's open just about every day of the year, where people can come and see the documents. And the rotunda was designed specifically to make it a sacred place where those documents are housed.
I always joke that our rotunda here is like our national chapel. It's dark, it's quiet, and there are three altars. You know, there's the Declaration of Independence is St. Joseph's altar, the Constitution is the main altar, and Our Lady gets the Bill of Rights. And it is really a place where we can all worship together, because there are no differences among us when it comes to these documents that formed our country and that still inform our country as how we live every day.
It is just a stunning experience to see how important these documents are, how people line up around the building to wander around the Charters of Freedom, to see what our founding fathers created and get some sense of the power of the written word. It's a remarkable experience.
On the 4th of July at the Archives, there's a buzz. We have historic military folks with the fife and drum. We have reenactors giving the real energy of what was happening at the founding. Everyone's wearing red, white, and blue. It is a patriotic day, obviously, for the whole country, but when you're at the Archives, listening to the words of the Declaration, you really are inspired.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, and that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Folks are actually lined up, thousands of them, out on Constitution Avenue, waiting for the Archives event to take place. At that moment in time, at 10 a.m., the actual event starts, and there's all kinds of ceremonies, including my personal favorite, where Thomas Jefferson actually reads the Declaration of Independence to the group, and the crowd really gets into it.
And altering fundamentally the forms of our governments.
Folks are cheering on the reenactors, George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Abigail Adams. And it culminates to the very end where we agree that we're going to be one nation. And then at the end, the choir comes on stage. That culminates with our confetti cannons going off. It's an amazing sight to be seen.
Every time I get a chance to hear the story, of how it was founded and how everything came to be, I'm more humbled because you get a chance to see living history right here.
This is our Super Bowl for the National Archives, so the energy here is something that can't be topped.
Coming up next, a fun look at Independence Day celebrations over the years on the National Mall, and a behind-the-scenes look at the work behind the July 4th fireworks display. So stay tuned. As the morning program at the National Archives ends, the celebration of the red, white, and blue continues just steps away with the National Independence Day Parade.
The modern sort of Independence Day celebrations that we see in Washington go all the way back to the beginning of the 19th century. And seemingly over the years, just little pieces got added as we went on. Of course, fireworks added through the years. The Washington Monument grounds become a focal point early in the 20th century. All of it going into the modern day celebration that we enjoy on the 4th of July every year.
In fact, it was on Independence Day itself that the Freemason Society laid the cornerstone for the Washington Monument.
That day in 1848, the laying of the cornerstone ceremony began at the White House. President Polk, members of his cabinet, administration officials, and then distinguished citizens proceeded from the White House down to the Ellipse. You have people coming together to celebrate America, celebrate the country. So why wouldn't you have them also gathered and convened to celebrate this momentous occasion to build this monument?
The Washington Monument and grounds became a focal point for 4th of July ceremonies and festivities, drawing large crowds in both times of peace and conflict. During World War I, a headline in the Evening Star read, "A memorable spectacle staged on Mall, Monument grounds, and Capitol steps." The article said, Washingtonians will long remember Independence, 1918, on which they witnessed one of the biggest and most impressive demonstrations of the war. 1 year later, the front page read, "If George Washington and Thomas Jefferson could come back to their beloved country today, they would behold in the national capital the spectacle of more than 40 nations uniting in a grand celebration of America's independence and the return of the world to peace." Independence Day celebrations continue to draw huge crowds to the nation's capital to join in the annual festivities. Rain or shine. But nothing would compare to the nation's 200th birthday celebration in 1976.
Growing up in Washington, D.C., I've been fortunate to attend the Independence Day celebrations over the years and in many ways watch it evolve. The first one that I came to was for the bicentennial in 1976 as a 9-year-old, and that was one of the biggest celebrations that the country saw that year, probably one of the biggest celebrations D.C. has seen.
According to the Washington Post, an estimated 500,000 people turned out to watch more than 200 marching units, bands, and floats go by in the American Grand Bicentennial Parade. The nation's biggest birthday party continued throughout the day as folks of all ages celebrated on the National Mall. And as the sun went down, anticipation grew along with the crowds for the big event of the evening, the annual fireworks display.
And of course, the fireworks themselves were bigger and better than anyone had seen up to that point.
And as an extra special treat, spectators were dazzled by these stationary pinwheels along the tidal basin.
But when everyone was ready to leave at the same time when the fireworks ended, the shuttle system sort of collapsed under the weight of the tens, hundreds of thousands of people that were ready to leave at that point. As I recall, they had everybody park at RFK and shuttle them by bus down to the mall. And of course, that was fine, spread out over the 6 or 8 hours that people arrived during the day. And a lot of us, my family included, didn't make it back to RFK until the following morning. It's very safe to say that hundreds of thousands of people come to the National Mall every year to take in the fireworks and be part of the festivities.
Happy Independence Day!
Me and my boyfriend wanted to come down with our family and see the fireworks for the first time on the National Mall. So far, it's been really good to see so many different people from different backgrounds walking around and playing games and talking. I love hearing the different dialects and languages, and I'm just excited to see the fireworks off the reflection board.
To get ready for the 4th of July, it's really an all-hands-on-deck situation for the National Park Service. Planning begins months in advance. Keeping that crowd that size safe and secure is our primary responsibility for the day, and security has evolved over the years for the 4th of July celebration. Of course, it's a significantly different world now than it was in 1976. You got yourself down here, you parked somewhere, and then you just went out onto the mall and grabbed a piece of grass to watch it on. No longer is it just an open festival where people can come and access at any point. There is now a fenced-in perimeter. We deploy over 18,000 feet of chain link fence, another 14,000 feet of bike rack. Visitors are required to go through a screening checkpoint to check bags. And of course, once folks are in that secure area, got to make sure that their creature comforts are taken care of. And we've got over 350 portable toilets that are deployed around the mall for the 4th of July as well. For folks that are coming down to the National Mall, there's plenty of room. We encourage everyone to come and spend the 4th of July with us. The National Park Service is a sponsor or co-sponsor of a number of activities throughout the day. The Smithsonian's National Folklife Festival takes place on the mall throughout the day on the 4th. And of course, the Capitol 4th concert, that starts at 8 o'clock in the evening and goes right up until the fireworks start.
The highlight of the 4th of July celebration is, of course, the fireworks at the end of the day.
Is there a better show? come on, this is the place to be. The fireworks are right here, very exciting. They fill up the sky. The report goes right through you. It's the most exciting place to be. It's so much fun.
They shoot the fireworks off from the edge of the reflecting pool, so we need to make sure that area is protected, not only the pool itself, but making sure that the area is safe from any fires that may break out, for example. And we coordinate with the contractor, with the U.S. Park Police, to keep the fireworks stored in a safe area prior to their being brought out to the reflecting pool. And of course, once they're on site, we have to make sure that the area stays secure and nobody can get into it.
The planning involved in the show actually starts right on the tail end of the production you just finished. You take all your notes during the production about the install, the build, things that you try and refine, fine-tune so that you can stay out of the sun and work as fast and as intelligent as possible. And then artistically, as we're watching the show, you make your notes about, I loved that, can I do this, can I do that? The setup for this production it's intense. It's a lot of work. It takes several hundred man-hours to really get everything set up in terms of getting here, getting everything organized, getting equipment moved to the Lincoln Memorial Reflecting Pool. With respect to the next phase of the production where we actually then load the fireworks to the mortars, there's a process where we go computer module by computer module, following our script to load the fireworks, and then each firework has an electric match that is then controlled by a computer module to fire the display. When the advances in technology, phasing from pure electrical fire control to removing the human element and allowing a computer to execute the entire display. So that gives you a lot of creative freedom.
And this spot in particular, I mean, the sight line you have with the Lincoln Memorial in the background, the Washington Monument, obviously the Capitol building, and the White House, is just beyond those trees. I mean, you can't get something that encapsulates the American monuments and things that we take such treasures to our country in one spot.
What I enjoy most about this profession is that 17 to 20 minutes where you get to finally realize the work, all the man hours, all of the baking in the sun, and just getting to finally see it. It's a unique art form where there is no dress rehearsal. You see it at the same time as the audience, and it's a great feeling when you finally get to see all that work in the sky.
As the last glimmer of light fades from the sky and the last patriotic note played, America's birthday celebration comes to an end. Not forgotten, though, are the reasons why each year the country gathers to celebrate a free and independent nation.
The 4th of July is really a way to renew our faith in America, to realize all of the aspirations that we have.
Also makes you appreciate what we have, the freedom that we can do this. I mean, it's unbelievable. Just gives me goosebumps just thinking about it, how lucky we are, how very, very lucky.
To me, it makes me really grateful that my parents took a chance, left their country, and came here. My father's from Colombia, my mother's from Ecuador, so I am first-born generation American. And I am just really proud of all the opportunities they gave me.
I served the nation for 30 years, and I finally get a chance to be home. And the freedom that we fight for, that we stand for as a nation, to be on the celebratory end is a great privilege.
There's no more important or significant place to be on the 4th of July than in Washington, D.C. And with the national memorials to Thomas Jefferson and George Washington, the architects of that independence, Jefferson penning the words to explain why we wanted to be independent, the military victory that secured the independence, and then veterans memorials. the men and women who over the last 240 years have struggled and fought and in some cases died to make sure that we still have that independence. It's an extremely meaningful and incredibly powerful place to be on the 4th of July.
Don't go away. There's still much more July 4th excitement to come, including a spectacular fireworks display over the nation's capital that you won't want to miss. So stay tuned. It was on July 4th, 1777, in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, that the first commemorative Independence Day fireworks illuminated the sky. Today, fireworks displays take center stage for July 4th celebrations across the country, including the nation's capital, where hundreds of thousands gather throughout the day to stake out that perfect spot to watch the night sky light up with dazzling bursts of color in celebration of America's birthday.